Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Disney. Disney has a massive problem right now, and you can spell it out in 4 letters. It's ESPN. ESPN is a great business for Disney. It's made them billions of dollars and helped them to finance all of their acquisitions like Marvel, Pixar, Lucasfilm. ESPN provides tremendous amounts of money to Disney. However, many people are unsubscribing from cable. It's cutting the revenues for ESPN very drastically. Disney, because they are in the ESPN business, has commitments of $57 billion that they've already agreed to pay for sports rights over the next several years. So they can lay people off at ESPN. They have more than 1,000 employees, but they can't lay off their existing commitments to pay to sports leagues. They need to figure out how are they going to continue to get all the revenue in that they used to get from cable subscriptions. It's actually impossible, but that's why they're frantically running around now, trying to make deals with whoever they can, trying to sell parts of ESPN to generate some cash, but to also maybe get distribution for ESPN. They're even trying to get Apple to help them distribute ESPN. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you. I'm trying to get to 30,000 subscribers, so if you can subscribe, please do subscribe. Coming from CNBC, Disney CEO Bob Iger wants minority partners for ESPN, but landing a deal won't be easy. Disney CEO Bob Iger has taken the unusual step of paying former executives Kevin Mayer and Tom Staggs a consulting fee to help him solve a complex problem: what to do with ESPN. Mayer and Staggs are the co-CEOs of Candle Media. Both men are close with Iger and have served as informal advisors to him in the past. They're working with ESPN Jimmy Pitaro on the strategic options for ESPN and, to a lesser degree, Disney's other linear cable networks. However, their cable networks are completely supported by ESPN. They are sold as a bundle to the cable companies along with ESPN. The cable companies consider ESPN an absolute must-have for their subscription bundles. All the basic bundles contain ESPN. And if it wasn't for ESPN, Disney would not be able to sell all the channels they're selling, and they definitely wouldn't get the money that they're getting from the channels because they piggyback on top of ESPN. Iger is looking for new ways to jumpstart ESPN because the rate of US cable subscribers has reduced. ESPN could still generate revenue growth by increasing programming fees for pay distributors such as Comcast, Charter, and DirecTV. Basically just increasing prices. That dynamic no longer exists. As ESPN revenue declines, it will become a larger anchor on Disney's earnings. That has prompted Iger to explore different strategic alternatives. Iger told CNBC's David Faber last month he has become more confident about when ESPN will launch a direct-to-consumer product. ESPN's best programming is still exclusive to the linear cable TV bundle. Disney offers many of its lower-rated live games on its ESPN Plus streaming service, which costs $9.99 per month. When ESPN does decide to offer an unbundled subscription service, it will likely cause even more people to cancel pay TV. That's why ESPN has waited so long to go direct-to-consumer. Iger declined last month to say when he planned to offer a direct-to-consumer ESPN. It likely won't be in 2023 or 2024, according to people that the author talked to. Iger wants to find minority partners to take equity stakes in ESPN. ESPN has held early talks with the NFL, Major League Baseball, and the National Basketball Association on the concept, CNBC reported last month. The National Hockey League has also been involved in these conversations. Selling a part of ESPN to 4 professional sports leagues would be unprecedented. The leagues are focused on transitioning their products to a streaming-dominated landscape. Taking a stake in ESPN and having the network's expertise in building an all-sports subscription service could help the league create a unified product and navigate the new economics outside of the traditional TV bundle. But a deal might also irritate their existing media partners and create potential conflicts of interest. Leagues would have a vested interest in ESPN's success if they owned equity stakes. This may not help the leagues maximize sports rights valuations, which have traditionally risen due to bidding wars among media and technology companies such as Comcast, Fox, Paramount Global, Warner Bros. Discovery, Apple, Alphabet, and Amazon. If ESPN can't find a suitable deal for minority partners, it has not ruled out a full spin-off of the network. Iger has resisted spinning off ESPN in the past and told CNBC he wanted to stay in the sports business. Mayer, who was executive vice president of corporate strategy at Disney before running the streaming business, has been more open-minded about spinning off ESPN when he previously worked at Disney. Mayer left the company in 2020 to take the CEO job at TikTok. He then went on to form Candle Media after he left TikTok. Iger told Faber last month that he wasn't necessarily interested in spinning off ESPN as a separately traded public company. The focus for Mayer, Staggs, and Pitaro is finding a way where Disney can keep a majority stake in ESPN. Disney currently owns 80% of ESPN and Hearst owns 20%. Disney got ESPN through the acquisition of ABC. Iger is looking for partners who bring advantages to ESPN in either content or distribution. Still, it's unclear if another strategic company would have any interest in owning a minority stake in ESPN. If Disney is the majority owner, it would control the fate of the network. From the New York Times, how ESPN went from Disney's financial engine to its problem. The sports juggernaut continues to earn billions of dollars for Disney, but profits are down and opportunities for growth have dwindled. And again, they have a massive commitment of $57 billion just for sports rights to feed future years of ESPN content. Disney paid $52 billion out of the $71 billion to acquire Fox. Half cash, half stock. Disney sold off other assets at the closing, so they didn't need to come up with more than $52 billion worth of value to take on Fox. But if you think about the value of Fox and how big a deal that transaction was, you can compare that to the $57 billion just for ESPN sports rights they've already committed to, not even counting what they've got to pay for overhead for their more than 1,000 employees of ESPN. It's a very big deal. It's a much bigger deal than whether or not they make or lose $1 billion on their current movies. They should be making money on their current movies. They're only losing money on their movies because they're all woke and people don't trust their brands anymore. That really should be fixed. But this is a really big financial deal, and they need to get it sorted out. ESPN has been Disney's financial engine for nearly 30 years, powering the company through recessions, box office wipeouts, and the pandemic. It was ESPN money that helped Disney pay for acquisitions, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Pixar, 21st Century Fox, and building a streaming service, transforming itself into a colossus and perhaps traditional media's best hope of surviving Silicon Valley's incursion into entertainment. Just to get an idea of how big ESPN is and the related cable channels that support ESPN, if you took out the profits from ESPN and the cable channels right now, Disney would not have any profit. That's how big it is. Those days, ESPN's best, are now over. With its dual revenue stream, fees from cable subscribers and advertising, the sports juggernaut continues to earn billions of dollars a year for Disney. In the first 6 months of the 2023 fiscal year, Disney's cable networks division, which is anchored by ESPN and its spin-off channels, generated $14 billion in revenue and $3 billion in profit. That's just the first 6 months of 2023. The problem, Wall Street is fixated on growth. Revenue for those 6 months was down 6% from a year earlier as profit plunged 29%. So when your profit plunges 29% on $3 billion in 6 months, how much is that? It's $900 million for a 6-month time period. How does that trend look? It don't look so good. That's $1.8 billion less approximately for the year in profit just from the loss and the reduction of revenues on ESPN. It still makes money, but it's very quickly not making money like it used to make it. Disney is now exploring a once unthinkable sale of a stake in ESPN. Not all of ESPN, Bob Iger has made clear, but he wants strategic partners that could either help us with the distribution or content, he said during an interview with CNBC last month. Underscoring the complexity and urgency, Bob Iger has brought in 2 former senior executives, Kevin Mayer and Tom Staggs, to consult on ESPN strategy with James Pitaro, the channel's president, and help put together any deal. Quote, "It's really tricky in this cord-cutting environment to see the real growth opportunities available to ESPN," Steve Bornstein, a former chief executive of ESPN, said in an interview. "Still, they have a great hand," he added, reeling off strengths like the numerous rights the network has to air live games, its digital assets, and a popular website. Iger made clear during the interview with CNBC that things will change at ESPN, but his comments generated more questions than answers. Exactly what kind of strategic partner is ESPN seeking? Does ESPN need money, technological help, or assistance with distribution? This is the thing which really makes it frantic. They seem to be just talking to everyone, looking for ideas. They don't really know what they want to do with it. They're hoping someone else seems to come up with the idea for it. The problem is they really do need to kind of pick a strategy, ultimately, like maybe even just be a platform and be open to joint ventures with just about everybody, because who would want to invest in ESPN right now if they can't even tell you what the business is going to look like in 3 or 5 years? It's not a good investment if you don't know what the company is going to be turning into. Also, what would you be using the money for if I was to invest in ESPN? For what strategic purpose? You basically get Bob Iger saying, oh, I don't know. That's not good enough. In business, we expect to see a plan and we expect to see like progress on a plan. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but at least there has to be a plan. Quote, "There's so much uncertainty in what Bob meant," said Michael Nathanson, a media analyst at MoffettNathanson. Iger declined to comment. Disney is scheduled to report quarterly earnings next week. Analysts expect per-share profit to have declined 11% as the company contends with a disappointing box office, softening attendance at Walt Disney World, and 2 striking Hollywood unions. I was also talking to Alex Sherman on Twitter, and he and I have been in touch ever since about 6 months ago. I was talking to him about Kevin Mayer coming back to Disney long before this recent announcement, because Kevin Mayer is brilliant. I saw interviews he did during the Disney Plus launch, and I was so impressed with him. And really, like, he could be amazing for Disney just as a company manager to get him involved again. And Alex Sherman said he'll be in touch with me next week about updates on Kevin Mayer. So he's the guy that wrote this article. He seems to know what he's talking about. He did point out to me that in a prior interview that he did with Kevin Mayer wanted to be CEO of Disney. So we'll see what happens. And of course, I'll keep you posted. Whatever problems might be in ESPN's future, its problems are easy enough to understand. The bulk of ESPN's revenue comes from what are called affiliate fees. These are monthly fees that cable providers like Comcast, Charter Communications, and Cox pay ESPN for the right to offer its television channels to households. Last year, around 71 million United States households paid for a television package that included ESPN, and those cable providers in turn paid ESPN an average of $8.81 per month for each home, according to S&P Global Market Intelligence. S&P Global Market Intelligence estimates that ESPN also has taken in more than $2 billion annually in advertising in recent years. But cord cutting has been hurting both those revenue streams. A decade ago, more than 100 million households received ESPN, meaning 30 million fewer households get ESPN today than in 2013. ESPN has consistently raised its affiliate fee to offset this decline, but its ability to continue doing so will be limited in coming years. By 2027, fewer than 50 million homes will pay for cable television, according to PwC, the accounting giant. At the same time, ESPN's costs are exploding. ESPN will pay an average of $2.7 billion annually over the next decade for the right to show the NFL, a 42% increase from what it used to pay. It will soon negotiate with the NBA on a potentially very expensive renewal of its rights agreement. According to Disney's financial filings, it will pay $10.8 billion this year, almost $11 billion this year for sports programming. Disney has future commitments totaling about $57 billion, with some of its contracts running well into the 2030s. These contracts are a result of a spending spree the company has undertaken to head off deeper-pocketed rich tech companies, which are also hungry for sports programming, and to stock its nascent ESPN Plus streaming service. Quote, "The cord-cutting phenomenon is a response to the increasing cost of cable, and indeed the increasing cost of cable is due in part to the increasing cost of sports rights," said Roger Werner, a former ESPN chief executive who helped create the dual revenue stream. There is a casualty there. To pay for the rights, ESPN has cut back in other areas, primarily original programming, and relied more heavily on a handful of its most famous personalities like Stephen A. Smith. But once justifiably proud of never having undergone layoffs, the company has seen 6 waves of layoffs since 2015, including one that affected a number of high-profile executives and on-air personalities just this June. At the same time, it is confronting the turbulent economics of the streaming era. ESPN Plus shows thousands of games annually, but very few are the biggest NFL, college football, NBA, or baseball games. Those marquee matchups are reserved mostly for ESPN and ABC, which is also owned by Disney. Sports leagues are reluctant to allow media companies to offer games exclusively on streaming platforms, where they are almost always reaching much smaller audiences than on network or cable TV. As of April, ESPN Plus had 25.3 million subscribers, though only 5 million people paid for it directly, according to Disney's financials. The bulk of ESPN Plus subscribers bought it as part of a discounted bundle with the far more popular Disney Plus and Hulu streaming services. And it shows you how crucial Hulu is for selling Disney Plus, and how Disney Plus and Hulu help sell ESPN. They need that bundle in place. Mr. Nathanson, the analyst, called ESPN Plus a complementary product, something attractive mostly to diehard sports fans. The question then is, when will Disney offer ESPN as a standalone streaming channel, allowing people to buy it a la carte and not as part of some larger package of channels they don't really want? Quote, "We haven't said when, but we do know that that will happen," Mr. Iger said on CNBC. Pricing, however, is an enormous obstacle. Offering ESPN a la carte will assuredly hasten the erosion of the cable bundle, which is held together mostly by sports. Quote, "The current cable bundle, if you're a sports fan, is probably the optimal way to watch sports content because the majority of sports are in that bundle. Affiliate fee increases for other Disney channels will slow or even decrease when they are sold on their own without ESPN. ESPN supports all of Disney's other non-sports channels. That is the secret underlying Disney and ESPN. They really need ESPN to not fall apart, to be able to not just sell ESPN, which is a very big deal, but to sell the other cable channels. Cable providers are likely to be far more aggressive in offering cheaper, skinny bundles that do not include ESPN channels. Disney's family of sports channels currently earns somewhere above $12 per month in affiliate fees for each cable subscription to each household, according to S&P Global Market Intelligence. Estimates vary widely, but if ESPN offered its cable channels a la carte, it would most likely have to charge an astonishingly high fee for the streaming service, perhaps anywhere from, and I've seen $33 to $50 per month, just to maintain its current revenue. Quote, "It's not easy," Mr. Nathanson said. "It's really not. That's why they've been so reluctant to do it." Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. The real issue is ESPN has been providing such an incredible amount of money to Disney. It's worked very well for Disney for several years, but that is drying up. There's no way around it. 29% less profit for their cable group in just 1 year. It continues to shrink, and it's not like the streaming service is doing well. They need to figure out what they're going to do with ESPN. They need to also not be so frantic and try to figure out who they should be making deals with, who it's really beneficial to, and how they can also use ESPN to support all their other entertainment channels. They are dependent on that now. You can't separate ESPN from Disney's other entertainment channels and expect they're going to maintain the revenue they've had and the distribution they've had. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.